Hari Om. In Bhagavad Gita, we do have occasions where the shlokas leave us completely baffled. Our ability to probe into the purpose of the shloka gets completely clouded. And this happens simply because the depth in the shlokas sometimes is far more than what we expect looking at the words. So the gap between the Vachyartha or Abhida and the Lakshanartha is too wide. At the same time, sometimes a very high esoteric principle is compressed into just two lines. And then the terseness, the compactness of the knowledge that is being communicated becomes too much to handle for the buddhi. And this feeling is very clearly visible, palpable in these two mantras. On one hand, the Lord is saying that from the shloka 12th to 38th, this adhyaya has been named as Sankhya Yoga. So preeminence is given to Sankhya. What is Sankhya? We have tried to see. It is knowledge. It because of the numbers, it has been given as because of the number of tattvas, 24 or 25, depending upon whether we call Purusha as a tattva or not. All that we have seen. Another parallel word to Sankhya is a Jnana. That also we have seen. But many a times we do get confused that Sankhya is a Jnana. And now the Lord is saying that Esha te abhita Sankhya. So far, I have told you about Sankhya. What have I understood about the Sankhya? Whatever he has so far told. Because the previous shlokas from 12th, 21 shlokas, from 21 to 38, they spoke of Sankhya, in which he said that Nat vivaham jatunasam, even I am not born, you are not born, these people are not born, they are not only now, they are forever, because what is forever is an Atman. Atman can never be destroyed. Vasav se jirnani yatha vihaya. All the concepts, all the knowledge that has been imparted so far is meant for the person who can comprehend the knowledge at the intuitive level simply because of his qualification as the person or the sadhak with purified mind. The one who's a chitta or the mind or the antakaran is shuddha, vikshepa rahita, for him, the standpoint towards the world is totally different. If we tell Gurudeva that Gurudeva, do you know Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga, there is no phalam, you should not be desiring phalam. Gurudeva will say that I am sorry, I can't understand what you are saying because I am a Jnana Yogi. What is the meaning of that? I am established in Sankhya. Now I don't need to know from you what is Karma Yoga because I have already purified the mind, removed the vikshep, reached the Jnana state. So now for me, there is a Karma Sannyas. When there is a Karma Sannyas, it is going to come in the third adhyaya. Because the Jnani has a Karma Sannyasa, that means none of the karmas are of any consequence to him. The one who is under the light of enlightenment, for him, how to deal with the darkness is not a question. It cannot be a question. Those who are fondling in dark, fondling in twilight, for them, The darkness and the light can be a subject, how to deal with the darkness, how to achieve the 100% purity of the white light, etc. That is for the people who are involved into the darkness. The one who is only light, Sankhya, Buddhi, Pratisthita, the one whose intellect is established in knowledge. For him, there is no karma, there is no karma sannyasa. And that being the highest state, one. Two, that being the state that everybody has to reach. When you get involved into the karma yoga, that doesn't mean that you will not be coming to jnana yoga. You shall be coming to the same state, but it is by krama marga, not krama samuchaya. This is a very important subject of Ishavasya Upanishad. Karma marga and krama marga and krama samuchaya, these are two different things. Can karma yoga and jnana yoga, that means karma yoga and sankhya, be practiced simultaneously? No, sir. There is an emphatic no by Shankaracharya as well as all the Advaiti Acharyas. Why so? Because one is meant for purifying the mind, other is meant for purified mind. So from the non-purified mind status, if you are in, then to Imam Shrunu, then you listen to me. No, sir, I am completely with purified mind. No, Imam Shrunu, because then the rest of the adhyayas are redundant for him. They are not required. Sankhya Yoga Pratishtita or Jnani need not come down to the one who has reached to the top floor, did not come down to the down floors. The one who is at a down floor has to now migrate towards the upper floor. The fact remains that he has to also get established in Sankhya, but by Krama Marga, not Samuchaya Marga. This sentence will make a lot of significance if one studies Vedas, especially the Mimamsa, vis-a-vis Uttar Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa. The ritualistic people, Purva Mimamsa, they say there is nothing like a jnana. You just perform the rituals, the karma in a proper manner, the way it is mentioned in the Vedas, dissociating yourself from the kamya karma, focusing yourself on the nitya karma, and not forgetting performing the naimittika karma, then you shall reach the state which you intend to reach. The Advaita says, karma, if it is to be adopted as a marga, then the karma can be utilized. Karma is a devil. But the devil can be utilized in purifying the mind so that the mind gets ready for the propulsion stage number 2, Jnana Marga. To differentiate between these two, the Lord has come to a first stop of his narration where he has started describing from the top to the bottom, not from bottom to the top. Why? Because the top always gets the priority. The process that is happening is answering to the question of Arjuna that what is the solution to your Vishada. As a solution to Vishada, when the Lord says that you shall be getting the heaven if you die or the kingdom, suddenly the Arjuna started thinking that these are prophets. As Gurudeva says in his narration commentary, he says, these are prophets. How the Lord is telling me that do a karma for the profit? Then everything I do in this world is for profit. In other words, it becomes a kamya karma. And how the Lord is telling me to do the kamya karma? Saying that, tato yuddhasva. This is confusing. All the worldly activities are supposed to get me into the bandhanam. And the Lord is telling me to do the acts. And not only that, he's telling me the result of the action, what you will get. How do you solve this riddle? And that is why properly understanding the bewilderment in the mind of Arjuna, knowing fully well that Arjuna's chitta shuddhi is yet to reach the state of directly ascending the throne of Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, yet mentioning him the final destination in the 21 shlokas, starting from shloka 12th onwards to shloka 38th. Now he is saying, whatever I spoke, Eshate Abhihito Sankhyaha Buddhi Yoge To Imam Shruno. Now you listen, vis-a-vis what you listened earlier, Jnana Yoga, listen to me, which is called as Yoga, commonly referred as Karma Yoga, or all yogas which involve karma, which also includes bhakti, because bhakti is karma. Karma Yoga, as we understand that Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga that we do is also a Karma Yoga, because we do meditation. Wherever I doing something is there, it is your Karma Yoga. Methodology may be different. The only yoga where nothing, no karma is done, is when I is completely absent, that is Jnana Yoga. That means, as a counter strategy to overcome the issues that I have in this world, I have two aspects to keep in mind. One is, either I do everything without I into it, without me into it, or I do everything that will ultimately help me in dissolving I into it. Suppose there is a fire in the house. Let us take an analogy. There is a fire in a huge building, and the fire is continuously increasing. If you go straight to the cylinder of the gas from where the gas is leaking and plug the leak, the fire will automatically subside. You don't have to do anything to the fire, because the source of the fire is completely extinguished. This is Jnana Yoga. Or you keep extinguishing the fire and slowly ultimately will reach the point of leak, and then you will close the leak. This is Karma Yoga. The difference is only from the standpoint. However, rare are those who directly descend on the Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga throne like Tapovan Maharaj. Jnana Yogi par excellence, Tapovan Maharaj. Which karma he did? In fact, so much so that he was not even writing letters also. He said, that's another karma. I don't want to. In fact, he has written a letter to a disciple, to a bhakta. I think some 6-7 letters he wrote to her. And in the last letter, he said that I'm stopping now because this will again lead me to some kind of karma. Why? Karma sannyas. Jnana yogi is into karma sannyas. And look at his disciple. Fully into action. Gurudeva, bombastic actions, morning till evening, fully immersed into karma. Sir, what is the difference between the two? There is no difference. One was karma sannyasa yogi, who was a jnani, and the second one was a jnani through karma sannyasa, who again came into the karma as a jnani. Standpoint remains the same. A bhakta, through the karma of bhakti, reaches to a stage where he dissolves his ego completely and reaches the same crown of jnani, and again comes back and remains bhakta forever. That is called as jnanottar bhakti. This is what Lord is now hinting. This is what, Arjuna, I am going to tell you. I shall tell you in detail, not to hurry. But let me give you the first inkling of my beginning of the dindima of karma yoga that is starting. In fact, Bhagavad Gita is famous more for karma yoga than any other yoga. Yes, it has bhakti yoga. It has all the yogas into it. But moment you say Bhagavad Gita, most of the people, whether it is Gandhiji, whether it is Tilak Maharaj, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, they find that it is Karma Yoga. Gita speaks of Karma Yoga. And that is why that Karma Yoga, which is so famous of Bhagavad Gita, is starting from this shloka of second adhyaya, shloka number 39, with the word Buddhi Yoga Tvam Imam Shrunu Buddhya Yukto Yaya. Conditions for the Karma Yoga started. Buddhya Yukto Yaya. Arjuna, now that I'm talking about karma, you may think that Buddhi has got no role to play here. Please don't be under that impression. Buddhya Yukto Yaya. Buddhya means vichara. And what is the Vakhya of vichara? Every act of the brain, that is Antakaran or Buddhi, which results in a retirement of asambhavana and viprita bhavana, is called vichar, according to Shastra. What is asambhavana? Asambhavana is, there are books or scriptures called Upanishada, and it seems they speak about Brahman. Can a book talk about Brahman? How it is possible? This is asambhavana. And if at all it is talking about Brahman, you think by reading those lines of some printed words in Upanishad, you can get Brahman? Asambhavana. And the third problem with our mind is, books can never give anything. Upanishad to chodi do. In this world, it is impossible to get this so-called Brahman. It is such an abstract idea. In fact, Brahman is not existing. This is called Viparita Bhavana. That which helps in retiring the Asambhavana Bhavana, that Upanishads do speak about Brahman. To understand this, we do Shravanam. And it is possible to realize the Brahman after studying scrupulously the Upanishads, is called Manan. And all the contrary ideas that Brahman does not exist will completely get extinguished if we do Nididhyasanam. And the one who does a Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam together, these three together are called Vichar. That Vichar is also called Buddhaya. And that is what the Lord is telling here. Buddhaya Yukto Yaya Partha. If you do that with Buddhi, with Vichara, that means with Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, in this particular Shastriya Marga, then Karma Bandha Prahasyasi. Karma Bandha. Madhusudan Saraswati says there is no requirement of even the word karma. Why? Karma is bandha, according to him. So it is a dvirukti. What is the bandha? One thing is there. Karma bandha word means karma causes bondage. Bandha. Question is, what is the bandha caused by karma? I am doing karma every now and then. What is the bandha caused? What is the bandha? The bandha caused by the karma is impurity of the mind. Chitta ashuddhata. If the karma is doing chitta shuddhata, there is no bondage. Chitta ashuddhata is the bandha. And bandha is an obstacle. So it is called bandhana. Obstacle for what? For self-realization. So I do the karma. Karma causes the bandhanam. Bandhanam means the impurity of mind. Impurity of mind is an obstacle. Obstacle to the self-realization. This is the sequence. Then what is the solution? Do a karma which will not cause bandhanam, so that there is no impurity of the mind. So any karma that leads to purity of mind, even by a small tila matram, is according to dharma. This Gurudeva, when he tries to explain, he says why he should after all practice this yoga for all practical worldly minded persons are indeed profit seekers. This is Arjuna's standpoint. This gentleman friend of mine, Vasudeva, is trying to tell me that keep doing the karma, do the war. This is all meant for profit seeking. And he's trying to tell me that. Lord is telling Arjuna, I told you Sankhya, but that is for the Chitta Shuddha, post Chitta Shuddhi affair it is. You are yet in the mind, your mind is still not pure. You are yet in the field of impurity of mind. So let me tell you, there is no other field greater than the Karma Kshetra for purity of mind. In fact, the very purpose of the karma that we do is to purify the mind. There is no other purpose. The very purpose of the fact that you are in prison is to become free. You have done some act of murder, so you are in the prison and you are undergoing imprisonment for what? So that one day you will be free from the prison. Now, if you keep doing the acts which put you in prison, then there is no question of freedom. So every karma, if it is adding to the chitta ashuddhi, impurity, then you are just prolonging one after the other. So that is why a karma has to be done in a manner which will not cause impurity to the mind, which is the bandhanam. This is law of karma, which Gurudev properly says, do not confuse it with law of destiny. What is law of destiny? Law of destiny focuses on phalam. Law of karma focuses on karmam. Let us take an analogy and we all will easily understand because everybody knows that particular situation. A person intends to get married. Now, if he is told that, my dear, it sounds very nice, everybody finds that it is so good, but please, I being a married person, all married people say to an unmarried boy, please do not get married because post-marriage there are a hell of affairs that you will be facing. Now, this particular advice is called law of karma. It is in philosophical language, it is called priori. Now that suppose the boy doesn't listen and gets married and starts suffering. This is called law of destiny. What is that? The phalam has come of the marriage. So law of destiny is the phalam that is being to be enjoyed has to be enjoyed. Smilingly, weepingly, without knowing, with knowing, immaterial. If the seed is sown, the fruit will come. Whether you eat it or throw it, that is up to you. So phalam or destiny or prarabdham is related to the phalam part of the karma. Law of karma is completely different. Law of karma is a priori. It is a warning before doing the karma so that karma is done in such a manner that it does not lead to law of destiny. Keep sowing the seed in such a manner that slowly does not lead to any fruit of the kind. The law of karma, if it is properly understood, Gurudev has given further explanation. Each act willfully performed. Gurudeva's words are so perfect. Each act performed, that's not a problem. Each act willfully performed leaves an impression. Willfully desired. Gurudev performed all the acts. Did he not do it willfully? Yes. What was the will? Samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam. Samasta jana kalyane was his will. Now whose will is this? Is Gurudeva's will or God's will? Samasta jana kalyan can be my will? No. Mama kalyane is my will. Samasta Jana Kalyane, it is divine will. You start doing what Gurudeva did, you will become Gurudeva. So each act willfully performed leaves an impression upon the mind of an actor according to texture of the motive entertained. Texture of the motive. Janak Raja used to give harsh punishment to the lawbreakers, and yet did not have any iota of phalam for that, what he did. Why? Because one, Janak Raja did not do it. Who did it? Raja did it. So he did it, it is a duty. One. Two, what is the texture of the motive concern? So that the rule of law persists. A soldier kills the enemy on the war front. Why? Protecting the country and country's people, deshahitam, janahitam, that being the texture of the motive, the impression on the mind will not be left of anything which is untoward, so there is no papam. That is why the Lord is telling to Arjuna, kill them. What are the words? Kill them. But the texture and the motive for the establishment of dharma. Texture of the motive, that is important. So if it is willfully performed, one, texture of the motive. I'm talking very sweet to my boss. How are the words? Beautiful. Texture, so that one day he can be of some use to me. Texture is bad. Texture of the motive. That is called mens rea in legal language. Guilty mind. And that is why a mind which has thus been completely purified fails to see a situation to weep. The whole idea is karma is meant for purification of mind. There is no other purpose for the karma. One who has established this fact in his mind, then comes the question that people like Ramakrishna, they had a malignancy of the neck or the throat. How bad must be their karma that he is now having destiny, sir? They are avatar. Avtaras do not have prarabdham, durnas have karma. In fact, Avtara, when he descends, he actually borrowed some prarabdha from the Maya Tattva because he is anyway Brahma Tattva, and then they avatarita, it is called Avtar. But his body was so pure, how did he get this affliction? In fact, this question he himself asked to Kali Mata, and she said, it is not your karma. You alleviated sufferings of so many people, but can you destroy my law? My law of destiny is their karma, somebody has to suffer, so you took it on yourself. The whole thing accumulated like a black dot. He saw it as a black dot when Kali showed it in the throat, which was nothing else but the malignancy. Maharaj, Sadguru and Gurudev, these are people of highest order. Ishvara has got no chance in front of Guru. The reason is, Guru takes even the pains and the sufferings of everybody and suffers himself for the sake of samasta jana kalyani. Gurudev undertook all the possibilities of conflicts, obstacles, issues, pains, sufferings, troubles, bodily sufferings, everything he took smilingly for the sake of whom, sir? He was already attained person, realized person. For our sake, he did it. This is Guru. That is why actions themselves are neither good or bad. The classification of merit and sin can come only with reference to the qualities of the motive and the mental attitude of the doer. Prayojana guna and bhava. With extreme devotion, you are doing puja of a Bhagavan, and the Bhagavan falls down from the place where he is kept. Nothing will happen to you. But you are extremely negligent about the puja, has no bhava in the mind, have always been thinking of cheating and defrauding people, and now trying to show that how devotee you are. The bhava and the prayojana guna, the motive is bad. gone. Sir, you are incurring sin, nothing else. Maybe you are sitting for 4 hours in the temple. These are 4 hours of papam. To act in the field of true achievement is to act in such a way that no evil result can arise from them. In these two shlokas, we have got the ultimate mantra for living the life. And that is why, similarly, the mental impressions cannot by themselves bring either disaster or reward unless they are connected with the external world through the needle point of egocentric self-assertion. So, in other words, law of karma is there. And when you do karma, there may not be a perfection in the karma that you do. Now, this particular perfection is with reference to Purva Mimamsa. We will not get into the details. It's a bit detail about why this particular word, Swalpam api asya dharmasya, why Swalpam word has come, is elaborated by Madhusudan Saraswati in much different ways. Abhikramanashaha and Pratyavaya, these are the two defects of doing a karma. What is Abhikramanashaha? Abhikramanasha means a result of the action is not coming. Lord says, result of the action shall come. It will never happen that it is not coming. And loss of merit, pratyavaya. Avaya means going down. Prati avaya means constantly going. Nothing of that kind. It will not go for zero. It will not go to naught. Even if swalpam api asya dharmasya. And then what will happen? Because of this purity of inch by inch purity of your mind, you will be slowly coming close to Mahato Bhayat Trayate. Mahato Bhayat means there is only one Mahato Bhayat, that is fear of transmigration, samsarati tattva. And that is why if you undertake the law of karma properly, last birth you did not take it. So now whatever phalam has come, accept it gracefully. Jaishi sthiti ahe, taisha pari rahe. Gracefully accept it. For the new creation, do every karma. Ask a question. Is my karma giving me purity of mind? Then that karma is allowed. It could be anything. You may put a dagger in somebody's chest. If he's an atatain terrorist, that karma will also give you purity of mind. So kamya karma also gives purity, and the nitya karma also gives purity, provided this texture and motive is proper. That is the greatest of significance of these two shlokas, which can be so instrumental in making us a properly working individual towards the purity of mind. And when the purity of mind is there, can jnanam be far away? It cannot be. Hari Om.